again, we held a retreat in Naivasha of all the chairs and the holders on permanent offices, as well as the commissioners, where again we reflected on the journey. I will pick journey. I will pick out some highs and lows, or hits and misses. Just examples, because there are many. On the lows, what cuts across us is budgetary support that is insufficient. And that has been the case over the years. Resources. And that is a cry across the CCIOs. I say that generally because each of the independent commissions has its unique challenges. But that is a common factor. But I'm happy to report that in the recent past, we have seen from Your Excellency support in terms of growing budgets. I can personally speak of that about my commission and others that I have spoken to. We see a trend that there is potential improvement. Another broad issue was one of mandates. There's a continuing issue of conflict or cross-cutting mandates. We have seen historically issues between SRC and National Assembly, between TSC and Minister of Education, myself, and Waziri Alice. These ones, as we fight diplomatically. But we have those issues. And I'm saying that in a general sense because they are not necessarily individual battles. It's a question of trying to understand, according to the law, where your mandate starts and ends. And at times, it has to do with the legislation. At times, it's a question of not being able to understand where, really, if the law is interpreted properly, where you fit. Occasionally, it's deliberate. But that, again, cuts across. So I was just speaking on two aspects of what you consider the laws. Focusing on the highs, the hits. I would want to go back to the sermon that we had at the beginning and about the summit and how it is you can be climbing up, you have reached some summit, but sometimes you don't actually realize that you have reached some summit and you have made progress. I'll just pick two examples, speaking to all Kenyans. The IBC, under the new constitution, has conducted 3 elections. Very, very contentious, particularly at the top, but elections from the very top to all the way to MCAs. Now, I know we listened to some young people, 20 years or so, who were born around 2010, the young children, and there are many others, even in this gathering, who may not know that there's a time elections were presided over by an individual known as supervisor of elections. And that supervisor of elections was assisted by returning officers who were district commissioners. Now, I'm certain if we are to do a quick poll in this room, very few Kenyans would want to go back to that scenario. What am I saying? What we need to look at is, in terms of the positives, is to ask ourselves, we have these institutions. How can we support them and make them stronger rather than destroy them and have the alternative of where we came from? Another example is judiciary. I think Lady Justice Jokin Ndungu spoke to this. we have a very robust process of getting a Chief Justice, of getting Supreme Court judges and judges all the way down to magistrates through the Judicial Service Commission. And they apply, they are vetted, they are interviewed live on TV, a very comparatively transparent process. So, back to the example that the judge provided. In the good old days, probably tomorrow morning at lunch hour, you open your TV or radio, it's an announcement. His Excellency has appointed Mr. Otachi as the new Chief Justice or as the Supreme Court judge. And that was the beginning and end. Now, what we have been used to now, would we want to go back? Would we want to roll back those gains? So, I'm just picking on examples of what we, as we are taking stock, we are trying to appreciate. The point I'm making is every now and then you see attacks on constitutional commissions and independent offices. But even as you look at those attacks, we should ask ourselves whether we want to look at a glass that is half empty or half full. On our part, and on my part, I want to look at a glass that is more than half full. I would say the glass generally across CCIOs is about 75% full. So that remainder, which are the laws, how can we work around supporting? To conclude, I just wanted, because I was told to make highlights. To conclude, we are having a very robust discussion that is across generation. We have had Gen Zs come strong, very strongly, raising their voices. I would urge those who are involved in appointment of commissioners, holders of independent offices, consider the Gen Zs. Let us have a mix. Mnakaa kwa commission, kuna wazee pale, kuna Gen Z pale, then you are able to talk to each other. Currently, I think the youngest commission I know of is actually a vice chair of IBC, Fahima Arafat, a young lady from a sort of marginalized community. I want to imagine should be able to have those young people. I don't know whether 32 is Gen Z. Is that millennium? Millennial. Your Excellency, I know you started your career as a Gen Z. You got into politics in the 20s. So, can we encourage the Gen Zs? Can we bring them on board in this space so that they are not out there complaining? Let them come in. Even, Your Excellency, even as you recycle us, see, when I'm about to finish this one, I'll come to you and be in Pati Ngine. But even as you recycle us, can you also look at the younger generation? Can we as Kenyans, as we go about our business, how can we get the younger Kenyans being part and parcel of that summit of the Constitution? I hope I have been brief enough because I know the other speakers. Asanteni sana.
That is a very nice call, but my experience at the Office of the Attorney General, we are trying to embrace Gen Zs. Your Excellency, we have to change all the rules of public service, almost 90%, for them to fit into our public service. One of them is flexi working hours. So that is food for thought. At the heart of the 2010 Constitution is devolution. We would be remiss if we did not allow the chair of the Council of Governors, Ahmed Abdullahi, to address this convocation. Very brief remarks, kindly.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, Your Excellency, the former Prime Minister and my party leader, Raila Odinga, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Speakers of the two Houses, Excellency Governors, the Honorable Lady Justice Mother Koome, Chief Justice, all protocols observed. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, what a defining moment this is, celebrating 15 years after ushering in a new constitutional dispensation. On 27th of October 2010, at a time like now, a big crowd gathered at Uhuru Park, filled with hope that a new dawn had come. They cheered and danced, broke into jubilation as the then president, the late Honorable Imwe Kibaki, appended his signature to a new constitution in a historic gesture. He lifted it up and paraded it to a joyful crowd. And so the journey began, a journey of hope, a journey of reforms, policy, legal, institutional, and administrative, a governance shift from a centralized to a devolved system, from one house to a bicameral parliament, a progressive chapter, the Bills of Rights, entrenching political, civil, cultural, and socio-economic rights, a constitution that decrees us all on transparency, accountability, participation of the people, decision-making, inclusiveness, equality, and national unity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most radical shifts in governance the world has ever seen was brought in by that new constitution 2010, the 27th of August that year. Devolution, which established two levels of government. That's why at the Council of Governors, we have a motto or a tagline that states 48 governments and one nation. Article 6.2 sums it all up for us, that governments are at the national and county levels, and they are distinct and interdependent and shall conduct their mutual relations on the basis of consultation and cooperation. Article 174 of the Constitution captures the objects, the purpose of devolution very succinctly. Devolution is not only concerned with economic development, it was meant to foster also national unity, democratic and political inclusion, and facilitate the decentralization of power, responsibilities, and resources, all aimed at bringing decision-making and services closer to the people. Devolution, as I've said in many forums, is indeed the truest definition of bottom-up social, economic, and political transformation. And in a summarized way, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has recorded notable improvements in all sectors that are devolved, including health, pre-primary education, agriculture, livestock development, water, roads, environment, climate action, trade, and cooperatives. For instance, just a case in point, there wasn't a single pre-primary school teacher on the payroll of national government in 2013. And currently, the payroll of county governments, there are over 50,000 pre-primary teachers. And the same can be said of all sectors that are devolved. We also celebrate the fulfillment of the not more than 2/3 gender rule in all our county assemblies, unlike in the national parliament, and in our county executive committees. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, devolution has done its bit and continues to do its bit in bridging the tale of two Kenyas. As we celebrate Katiba Day today, this commemoration comes at a time when the nation is openly discussing the very challenges that led to the Constitution. Therefore, these demands that have been made are not new. They are the very promises of our Constitution. In fact, the socio-economic and environmental challenges that we have, in our view, at the Council, would have been worse without devolution. They would have been worse without Constitution 2010. We therefore must jealously guard this Constitution, including devolution and devolved governments. As county governments, we continue to aspire and to promise the nation that we will do our best to attain the highest standards of effectiveness. Your Excellency, in a summarized way, from the perspective of the county governments and through the COGA, yes, devolution has done a lot. Yes, it has challenges. It's confronted by a number of challenges, including but not limited to administrative clawbacks, lack of uniformity in the application of the law, should I call it prejudice, by some oversight organs and some independent officers, inadequate resources, and delay in financing. We also have issues of the existence of subsidiary legislation and policies that predate the Constitution, not to mention the supremacy battles between the organs created by this very Constitution. In order to strengthen devolved governments, the following bold and strategic actions must be taken. First, track the transfer of all functions and the attendant resources pursuant to the completion of the unbundling of functions. Urgently undertake policy and legal reforms to align them with the Constitution, considering that devolution is now a reality. Increase the equitable share to the county governments to enable them perform their functions optimally and ensure timely disbursements. Strengthen intergovernmental relations, galvanize the support of development partners and the private sector and the civil society so that we share the promise of devolution is as captured in our Constitution. Your Excellency, part of what we suffer here is also a bit of stereotype. As devolved units, my sister, the AG that I really respect, referred to audit queries that say there's a lot of waste in counties. I haven't seen any audit queries that say there's more waste in counties than in the national government. I think that's part of the stereotype that we deal with as counties. I think I would really want to see that report and share it with the governors. As I conclude, I leave you on this reflective notice, that we should ask ourselves today, are we living to the ideals of our Constitution? When we meet here again, inshallah, in 15 years, will we still be confronted by the headlines of today? Today, that are sitting in here, and we're all leaders. We've been told it's not only the president that we should be pointing fingers at. We're all leaders in our own right. Let's all become champions of our Constitution, from our homes to our churches, to our mosques, to our temples and shrines, and to our offices. And let's all recognize
we turn to the branch that gives our covenant its daily meaning through fair, impartial, and timely justice. The judiciary is the sentinel of the rule of law, protecting rights, resolving disputes, and ensuring that public power remains bounded by the Constitution and accountable to the people. Since 2010, an approximated total of 5,533 constitutional petitions and 3,595 judicial review applications have been filed against various government agencies. Denning once reminded us, a constitution is not to be interpreted like a last will and a testament, but a living framework of government. In speaking to our reality, the constitution must be a fidelity, but also with pragmatic adaptation to new social and political dynamics. As the Attorney General, I affirm dedicated respect for judicial independence and our shared duty to make justice accessible, efficient, and trusted. When courts are strong, rights are real. When jurisprudence is principled, our institutions are steadied. And when remedies are effective, the promise of the Constitution becomes the practice of governance. It is now my honor to invite my lady, Justice Martha Koome, EGH, Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya, to deliver her remarks.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Attorney General, who is also the titular head of the bar. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, and Dr. William Samoei Ruto, allow me, for the interest of time, to abide by all the protocols that have been established and say that I recognize all the distinguished participants here this evening. It is an honor, a very great honor for me, to join you all today for this historic Day commemoration, a day that reminds our collective soul as a nation under the transformative vision of the 2010 Constitution. I also, Your Excellency, join the other speakers to thank you most sincerely for declaring that going forward, 27th August will be commemorated as Katiba Day, and also for convening this important summit and for bringing together the leadership of all arms of government, county governments, constitutional commissions, and independent offices to reflect together on the promises, responsibilities, and the enduring vision of our Constitution. The very fact that we are gathered here across institutions, across political and governance mandate is itself testament to the spirit of our constitutional democracy. This gathering demonstrates that while we may have different roles, different perspectives and mandates, we are all united in our fidelity to one supreme law, to one people, the sovereign citizens of Kenya. Our Constitution establishes constitutional democracy, a system in which the will of the people is exercised within the bounds of the Constitution. And I wish to clarify that judiciary does not exercise overreach. When we interpret the Constitution, we are merely breathing life and spirit in the Constitution. And should there be overreach, it is on appeal, and the issues have brought within the Constitution. And forms of government about guided by the rule of law. It's protection of the fundamental rights, national dignity of every individual. The Constitution is therefore both a shield and a compass, as it protects the weak, the vulnerable, and marginalized, finding our nation's leadership wants justice and inclusion. The Constitution's promise of national cohesion cannot be secured our own. The Constitution respects diversity and inclusion in governance. Our Constitution dignity, justice. Going forward, I hope this discussion will come to be know our families, so that Kenyans can embrace constitutionalism, the Constitution, and own and they can the rights and in the Constitution. Quote the Constitution, we nurture cohesion, and in turn, cohesion turns and becomes the fertile soil upon which peace and prosperity of our nation will grow. It is important to use this declaration institutions and decide not to operate in isolation. Serve themselves, to serve Britain interests, but not also to serve interests, but to serve Kenya. Every decision we must ask is how it impacts Kenyans and how it promotes the state's occupies and embraces it is the Constitution and the protection of our the judiciary that is captured, judiciary that is beholden to any authority cannot fulfill its mandate. One article of the Constitution that we celebrate every day, Article 60, cannot be influenced independent and judiciary is not a privilege. It is a right with every Kenyan and a safeguard for our democracy. Judicial accountability has been critical to consolidating public trust because independence goes hand in hand with accountability. And to enhance public trust and confidence in the judiciary, we, in January, established the court integrity committees in every court stations, bringing together stakeholders to identify and address corruption and unethical conduct. At a sectoral level, the judiciary, working with other agencies in the justice sector through the National Council on the Administration of Justice, spearheaded the anti-corruption strategic guiding framework for the justice sector, which was launched, Your Excellency, in March 2025, and it promotes a coordinated action in tackling corruption across institutions in the justice sector. On the other hand, the Judicial Service Commission has, since the promulgation of the Constitution, diligently carried out their constitutional mandate of ensuring accountability within the judiciary by receiving and investigating complaints against judges and judicial officers. To date, the Commission has processed a total of 946 petitions against judges, reflecting the seriousness with which it treats public grievances and the commitment to upholding integrity in the administration of justice. 4 judges have been removed from office over this period. At present, only 95 complaints remain pending, most of which are at various stages of inquiry, demonstrating both the efficiency and transparency of the Commission's processes. In addition, 210 judicial staff have been dismissed from service after due process as established misconduct on their part, which is also a clear signal that ethical lapses within the institution will not be tolerated. These figures illustrate not only the robustness of internal accountability mechanisms, but also determination of the Judicial Service Commission to maintain the highest standards of professionalism and public trust. Your Excellency, distinguished participants, democracy thrives when institutions play their constitutional roles faithfully. The executive and legislature embody the majoritarian principle